We're going to try again here. Woo, woo, woo. Those of you catching the replay, throw up a hashtag replay. Let me know that you were here. This is part 2. Part 1, I don't know what was going on there. My shit froze. It booted me off. So here we are again. Let's try again. We are going to chat about current energies, some recent downloads that I've received, and the energies have been really, really, really interesting. So for those of you that are joining live, let me know that you're here, right? Be seen, say something, say hello. Let me see the comments. Say hello. Let me know that you're here. Let me see you. Let me feel you. Let me hear you, right? Come on. Let's go. You guys want to have this conversation, or you just want to creep around in the sidelines of life? Let's do this. Because some of the energies right now there is this push. I don't know if you all can feel it in the energy, but there's this push for us. It's very fiery, right? It's very like, and it's pushing us and it's asking us to step forward into fullness, into more aligned authenticity and soul expression and soul embodiment, right? And that is the energy that so many people right now also have a problem with, right? This is the energy that not everybody's ready for, right? Everything about the way we are taught to be in the world is to not be soul aligned, right? And I wrote something down today that came through. I had a really big download around people pleasing. And it was like people pleasing is being trained so far away from your soul truth and your soul guidance that you sell yourself out in favor of what someone else thinks is best for you. And I really want to talk about that because people pleasing is like the exact opposite of everything that I preach and I stand for and I live and I practice and I work with in my clients, right? Yet it's one of like the biggest things that I see running rampant right now with all of this bullshit around mob mentality and control. I want to know, everybody, shout it out, right? Let me hear. Where do you live and how are things feeling around you? I want to know, right? I want to tune in. And I want to know too, like, are you feeling the intensity and the push and the purge, right? Are you feeling it? How's it showing up for you? Because this is crazy, right? This is like crazy, unprecedented times. And we are going through shifts and upgrades and ascension portals like left and right. And the craziest piece is like people are leaving the earth realm, right? People are checking out of planet Earth left and right. People are dying. People are committing suicide. People are just checking out and they're going, right? And it's like, why is that? And it's like, because this energy is so intense that if we don't have support around us, especially those of us that are really just beautiful, pure souls and light workers, and all of this stuff is being triggered and brought up so we can transmute it, right? This is a crazy time because there is a lot of stuff being purged from ourselves, being purged from our physical being, from deep in our emotional body, deep in our mental body, right? It's all being, it's like it's being shaken up. Can you guys feel that? Can you feel the push and it's like literally shaking it out of us? And that's inevitable, right? Like that's just part of what's happening. And here's the key piece is, what are we going to do about it when it's happening? What are you going to do about it when it's happening, right? Like what tools do you have available? What are you willing to do? You know, do you have a meditation practice? Do you breathe? Do you have support around you? Do you have a coach? Do you have energy healers? Do you have meditation, right? Do you journal? Like what are your practices? What are your go-to tools for navigating this energy? Because I'm going to tell you right now, like if you don't have some go-to tools, it's going to become a very bumpy ride. It's going to get very uncomfortable. And this is why we're seeing people check out left and right. People are going, they're done here. Like this isn't something that we can continue to bury our heads in the sand around, right? Today I was feeling very angry. I was noticing myself going into anger, and with everything that I've been processing and going through, right? I found out another friend of mine, an acquaintance I had from California, passed away in the last 2 days. You guys know my sister passed away about 3 weeks ago. And there's a lot, right? There's a lot to process and navigate through and feel at this time. And this time is, you know, not even talking about all of this stuff that's happening externally that has us going like back and forth. Is it this or is it this, right? Like, give me a yes if you feel a little bit like there's a psychological war being waged on us, right? Because I don't know about you all, but all of the contradictory evidence and, oh God, like now they're talking about labs changing the numbers on coronavirus, people fighting about masks, people fighting about racists, the closet racists calling everybody else racist and projecting their unhealed shit onto them. Like, it is like you couldn't make this shit up, right? And as this stuff is all unfolding and it's happening, each one of us has a choice in the face of all this, right? Each one of us has a choice to identify with what is happening and throw ourselves into it and get swept up by it, or we have a choice to tap into who we know we are at our soul essence, right? And that's the energy right now. The energy of right now is asking us to lean in and remember who we are at our core. To lean in and be who we are, right? To embody our true soul essence. And as I sit back and I watch people yelling and screaming and fighting about this and fighting about that and disowning each other over who they're voting for and who they're not voting for, it's a very heavy energy, right? And it's so hard to not get swept up in it and drop right down into the third dimensional ego-centered consciousness, right? That identifies with our beliefs, because that's who we are, right? Let's just talk about that. That's who we are in third dimensional consciousness, right? Our third dimensional identity is whoever we believe we are according to our beliefs. It's whoever we believe we are at an ego level, right? So me as a coach, right? That's a third dimensional identity. That's a third dimensional piece of my consciousness. Our political beliefs are third dimensional aspects of who we are. Our religious beliefs, third dimensional aspects of who we believe we are, right? Great. That's all part of it. I'm not saying, right? This isn't about bypassing. And I'm not saying that like we bypass and we reject these parts of ourselves. What I'm talking about is pulling out, right? Because when we're right up in there and we find ourselves arguing or getting swept up into a debate or feeling defensive or feeling like we have to go on the attack because of a belief we have as being challenged, it's fine. That's all part of this ascension, right? That's all part of this journey that we're undergoing right now. What's being asked of us is that when all of that is happening, can we pause for a moment, right? Can we pause for a moment and pull back and realize, oh crap, I'm doing it, right? I'm doing it. I'm totally buying into the illusion that like who I want to vote for is somehow me. And so I have to then go fight and argue with this person who maybe has a different view. Can I pull back a little bit and remember that all of that stuff is like this much of the picture? Can I pull back a little bit and allow myself to start seeing the bigger picture that is playing out, right? Can I pull back a little bit and start to question, hey, maybe the things I think that I know, maybe the things that I feel like I have to defend and argue and debate with aren't actually the end all be all. Can I start to challenge my own beliefs? Can I start to open space within myself to give myself a new experience? Can I give love to this person who maybe believes something different to me? Can I give love to this person who's having a different experience than me without wearing or needing to prove them wrong, right? Can I do that? Am I willing to do that? Each one of us has to decide for ourselves, right? This is just, it's part of what's happening right now. All of this stuff. Hey, Joanne, thanks for dropping a little emoji wave. I appreciate you. I see you. All of this stuff that's unfolding right now is medicine, right? It's medicine for our individual soul journeys and medicine for our collective soul journey and evolution and ascension. And today, like I started to say before, I found myself starting to get angry because from where I stand and what I'm watching, from my perspective, from my vantage point, I see many people digging their heels in and just outright refusing to consider an expanded perspective. Now, I'm not here to say that those people are wrong, but I am here to shine a light on, hey, like, where can we all just start listening to each other? Yeah, exactly, Beth. We can agree to disagree, not demonize that person for not believing what we believe. And I'm seeing a lot of people very loudly silencing and demonizing others who don't believe the same as them, right? I'm seeing people who want to, what is happening here? I'm seeing people feel the need to, not reject, but I'm seeing people be pushed into silence. I'm seeing people, lighting is weird. I'm seeing people who are afraid to speak their truth out of fear of being attacked and being ridiculed and being called things that they're not. And then I'm seeing people who I know aren't a particular thing wearing that label out of fear, chastising themselves for being a racist who are not a racist, right? There's all of this like chaos ensuing, and there's so much messy projection happening. And I don't know about you all, but I cannot in good conscience like sit by and be silent while I watch people being silenced. Like, this is 2020, right? Like, we didn't come this far to have a fucking witch hunt. And it's like, I love to study history, right? And I love to look back on times in history with like mob rule and things like the Salem witch trials and all of these points in time where, this mob mentality took over. And I would read up on these things and I would study these things and I would like wonder, like, how does this happen? How does this happen, right? Like, how do they end up burning a whole bunch of like young girls at the stake out of fear of them being witches? How does that happen? And it's easy to like write it off and be like, oh, well, they were just superstitious, or, oh, well, they just didn't know what we know. That's just the mentality of them back in the day, right? And this is only a couple hundred years ago. Yet right now we're watching the same thing unfold, right? We're watching that happen. We are watching that happen. Where people are being censored and deplatformed and silenced if they're not going along with a certain narrative and agenda. Now, I'm not here to tell any of you what to think or believe. I'm here to share the truths that are coming through as downloads that feel like truth for me. I'm here to serve as a light and a safe space for people to figure out what they believe without being judged, right? Because I'm watching as people question narratives, they're then getting ridiculed and shamed and bullied into silence. Like, how dare they question? I'm sorry. The people that are running around calling everybody fascists seem to be the fucking fascists. And I'm just going to say it flat out, right? Because one of the biggest traits of fascism is like not letting people think for themselves, not wanting people to think for themselves, telling people what to think, controlling the flow of information, right? I've been to China, and I remember when I was in China, I remember when I was in China, one of the things that freaked me out the most was that I couldn't access certain websites. Like, I was in school at the time and I was trying to do my online classes, and I couldn't access my educational like .edu, right? I couldn't access anything to do any of my work while I was there because their internet was so controlled. Couldn't really freely access Facebook unless I was on this other like external thing that the girl I was traveling with had so she could do her work, right? So there was no free flow of information. And we are heading there. We are there. Like, when you log into Google and they want to like talk about or they want to control the viewpoints and the narratives and tell you you can't read something because it's a conspiracy, I have a problem with that, because I'm capable of thinking for myself. I'm capable of reading through information and using my brain, right? My very powerful and sharp brain, and having a discussion around something I read and figuring out what feels like truth for me. I'm capable of that. Are you all capable of that? Right? I don't want to be in a world where I have to be told what I can read because this over here might be dangerous, because they don't want us getting further and further and closer to the truth, right? I'm not here to debate conspiracy theories and which ones are true and which ones are false and blah, 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 like, right? That's not what I'm here to do. But I am here to shine a light and speak to the fact that I'm not willing, like, the world that I want to create, the world that I want to live in, has free speech and free information and allows us to use our God-given right to fucking think for ourselves, right? Like, I'm not here to watch the world that I grew up in be hijacked by people who want to control what we think, right? And it's true, right? Like, silence is complacency. And we look at things like what happened in Germany before World War II, right? And we wonder how that happened. And again, coming back to it, like, we're watching how it happened. This is how it happened. It happened by the masses being too afraid to speak up for what they feel is true in their gut, right? It happened by a select few being very, very loud and silencing and shaming and bullying others into silence. That's how it happened, right? It happened by the distortion of like people pleasing, being people getting swept up in like mob rule and this idea that this need to be part of something. So they're getting swept up into something that they don't even understand what they're becoming a part of, right? It happened because when we don't understand that we are energetic, multidimensional beings, and we don't understand that when we're engaging with something online and we're like, oh, yeah, and we're like feeding energy to this thing, or that when we're getting hijacked in fear, we're feeding energy to these things, right? It happened because we don't understand by design, you guys, by design, we are not allowed to understand that we're sovereign beings who can think for ourselves, right? And we don't get taught how to energetically take responsibility for what we're plugging into and what we're supporting with our energy. We don't get taught how to understand when something is energetically hijacking us, right? You don't believe me? Like, go scroll on social media for a day and like be really conscious about what you feel and notice, right? Like, notice where your attention is getting hijacked, and notice when you can't stop like coming back to something. Notice what is grabbing a hold of your emotional reactions and your wounds and your traumas. You guys, like, this is so multi-layered. Like, it's inverted and multi-layered, and it's designed so that when you try to start looking at it, it like shifts and it moves. And then you're like, oh, no. Yeah, like, that must be my imagination, right? Because by design, we are fucking taught and programmed to doubt our intuition. Exactly, Kelsey, right? We're being programmed to doubt what we know is truth, right? We're being programmed. We've been programmed our whole lives. And at every single one of us is going to have a point in our lives where we have a choice to wake up, right? Red pill, blue pill, right? Not to be funny, but really red pill, blue pill. Like my red pill moment was fucking decades ago in my 20s when I started to wake up and I started to question. And I used to joke on myself, right? Like I used to joke on myself. And I would joke about myself putting on my tinfoil hat, like when I wanted to go talk about these things. But the reality of it is like, oh my God, there's so much stuff unraveling right now, and it's happening faster and faster and faster and faster. And the current energies of the universe, like the light beings that are here supporting us, like we can't do this in a bypassing fashion anymore. There's no more like hiding our head in the sand and pretending it's not happening. Like it's there. Now, I'm not saying you have to like go in and you have to like digest a bunch of stuff at once that's really hard to digest, but you do have to start waking up. And if you don't, you're very quickly going to find yourself on a timeline and you're going to be like, how the fuck did I get here? And your rights are going to be gone and your freedoms are going to be gone. And you're going to have a bunch of fucking people telling you what you're allowed to read and what you're allowed to watch and what you're allowed to think and what you can put in your body. Like the simple fact alone that we can't get a solid answer as to whether or not a mask fucking works and whether or not it helps anything should be a red flag. Like, I'm sorry, right? And I don't give a shit whether you want to wear a mask or not. Make your choice. I'm not fucking wearing one, all right? And you're damn sure not going to see me posting little virtue signaling pictures of me in my mask so that I can feel good about myself because I'm propping up a bullshit straw man narrative that doesn't have a leg to stand on, right? The simple fact alone that stories are coming out about labs escalating the results, like false results, right? That they're skewing numbers. And then all the backpedaling, like all of this stuff needs to be raising a red flag. I'm not telling you what to think, but I'm telling you there is an awful lot of suspect shit happening and coming out. And if it's not raising a red flag in you, like that's a problem. Because how willing are you like to go and just be blindly led along, right? If fucking masks and shutdowns work, why is California spiking? Tell me. And if somebody can tell me and give me some facts, like okay. If masks and shutdowns work, why is California having a spike in numbers? If the numbers are as high as they are, why aren't there dead bodies all over the place? If masks work, why are we having spikes? But are there, Joanne? Like, are there so many deaths? Because, like, I know that there's people dying, but all we have to go on is the numbers that we're being given of people who are proven time and time again they can't be trusted, right? Because the death numbers are being reported by the same people who are reporting the case numbers, and look what's coming out about the case numbers. They're false. They're wrong. They're erroneous. No, and I'm not saying, Joanne, please don't get, I'm not saying like people aren't dying of this. Yes. There's a virus. But is it the numbers? Like if you really stop, and here's what again, I'm not telling anybody what to think or believe. What I am asking you to do is before you take information as truth, even what I'm saying, pause. Let it sit in your body for a moment and ask yourself, like, how does this feel? How does this feel for me? Does this feel like truth for me? And if something else is being force-fed you and you're like, this doesn't feel right, something doesn't feel right, trust that, right? That's the fucking big thing that's wanting to come through. Is like, can you pause for a moment when somebody offers you a perspective or information? Can you pause for a moment and be like, does this feel like truth for me? Like, use your gut, use your intuition. Like, it's go time. That's the other thing wanting to come through. It's go time. We all got to choose which timeline we want to create. And I know which timeline I'm creating. I know which timeline I'm going on. And it's the timeline where we get to evolve and expand and ascend. And I know that I am not going to accept that I don't get to think for myself and form my own conclusions. I am not here. Like, I am here to form my own beliefs and have my own sovereign experience and reclaim my sovereignty and my liberty. Yes, Kelsey, intuition has been willfully blocked. Absolutely. Right? Like, there's tons of studies out there that you can go and read about that. And so my overall message for the day is, can you pause for a moment and connect with who you know you are in your soul, and then allow yourself to be that, right? Can you connect with who you know you are in your soul and let yourself become that here on the physical? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to take that journey? Are you willing to expand into that? Because I promise you, when you do that, you have health, you have abundance, you have trust, you have love. When you know who you are in your soul, you can stand in the amidst the shit of the storm and not be swayed by it. That's where that comes from. Right now, I'm watching people get swept up by storms of misinformation, of stories, of things, of arguments, of religion, of politics, of race, of all this stuff, arguments, division. When you know who you are in your soul, you're not going to buy into the division. And that's the message that I'm here to anchor into the world, right? Like, to be so soul embodied that you don't get swept up in stories and illusions and bullshit. To be so soul embodied that you can stand in your fucking truth and your badassery no matter who is slinging what mud at you. Yeah, there's a lot of people swept up in fear, right? And I'm not going to buy into this narrative that I know in my gut is not truth. And I can do that because I know who I am in my soul, and I've taken the journey to embody that. I'm not here to tell you what to think, and I am not here to tell you what's wrong and what's right, because wrong and right is subjective. But I am here to teach you how to think for yourself. I am here to assist you in expanding so far into your soul frequency that you become unfuckwithable down here on the earth plane, right? I am here to teach you how to be so soul embodied that it doesn't matter what the mob wants you to fucking believe. You know who you are, right? That you will not be silenced by mob rule or other people projecting their unhealed shadow shit and their unhealed trauma onto you, right? I am here to cultivate a group of beings that want to be able to live in sovereignty and think for themselves. So if that is you, stick around here. If that is not you, I release you. If that is not you, you'll vibrate the fuck out away from my page. That's okay. You'll probably call me a racist as you go, and then you'll vibrate on out to fucking harass somebody else that is open to being harassed. When we know who we are in our souls and in our essence, and we embody that, nobody can fucking tell us otherwise. So my announcement is that for those of you that are ready to be so soul embodied, those of you that are ready to be so anchored in your soul truth, I'm opening up 3 spots for a private one-on-one coaching journey with me in my new journey, Expansion, which is all about getting you to the place where you know who the fuck you are. You know who you are, and you are standing in that and radiating that frequency out to the world, because that's how we're going to create shifts. Not by yelling, not by fighting, not by buying into the division, not by buying into who we think we are down here on 3D or whatever label we slapped on ourselves, but by being soul embodied. If you're ready to do that, let's chat, right? Come see me, come find me. For the rest of you, just go forth and keep doing, shining your light, anchoring in your truth, speaking what you know to be true, not because you need to convince anybody, but because you're here to anchor in that truth, right? Again, not because you need to convince anybody of anything, because they're all having their own experience, but because you're here to anchor in your truth. Keep shining your light, you guys. I love you all, and I'll see you soon.